right, so please welcome Stephanie Ledda, founder of Ledda Fragrance, Michelle Phan, founder of M Cosmetics, and Sivan Ayla Richards, co-founder of Luxe Unfiltered. You guys all look beautiful. Thank you so much for coming today. So appreciate this. All right, so all three of your stories are so different, but I'm curious if each of you can recall that moment where you were like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna launch this line.
I'll go first. I've launched a brand, I would say 3 times in my career. The first time, most people don't even know about it. This was when I was only 20. It was in 2008. YouTube was still a baby. I was still a baby. And around this time, I went viral. And something told me like, yeah, maybe you should launch something. This is a good time to launch it, that inner voice monologue. So I found a chemist in Thailand, and she helped me develop this amazing sunscreen formula, and I launched it. Long story short, I learned a lot from that experience. But I would say the catalyst was really just seeing the growth. And I think for me, I was okay taking that chance, that leap of faith. And it was that inner monologue that just told me, like, just launch something. Strike while the iron is hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you guys remember the catalyst or the moment where you were like, I'm gonna do this?
I do. I had actually done a collaboration with a brand previously to launching my brand, and we had sold out in a matter of minutes, which kind of let me know that I had selling power. And at the time, I had a decent following, but in my head, I thought that I would need millions and millions of followers in order to launch a brand. And that moment really gave me the confidence to then, proceed and think about what I wanted to do in the long term. And I feel like that was the moment where I was like, okay, it doesn't require millions of followers. If you have a good idea, proceed, because I saw the conversion and I knew I was solid.
Stephanie?
So mine was probably about 10 years into my YouTube career. I always thought about launching a brand, but I started realizing kind of like a trend that, I've made a lot of beauty content over the years, like makeup, fashion, all of that. But I noticed that my fragrance videos were performing the best, and actually my top selling affiliate links were fragrance. And I was like, this is kind of a big deal, because to hear about a fragrance and then click on it and purchase it without even ever smelling it, I feel like that's a big deal. Like, I'm so passionate about someone else's fragrance, talking about it, that it converts to a sale. Like, I can only imagine like what I could do with my own brand. And, I've collected fragrances for years. I've had hundreds, and I was like, this just makes a lot of sense for me and my brand.
Yeah, I heard you had, how big is your collection of fragrances?
I have probably over 100 for sure.
This one's for Michelle. You are such an icon in the creator space. Can you tell maybe an anecdote or two around the lessons that you carried into M Cosmetics from some of your other ventures?
Sure. I think the biggest lesson for me was to first identify my weak points. And I think this is why I talk about how I've launched so many brands throughout my career. A lot of them didn't do well, and some of them did. But you have to see the ones that flop, or the failures, whatever you want to call it. To me, they're lessons, and they reveal to me weaknesses that I have. So I learned a lot about the different weaknesses I had throughout my career. And what I brought over to M that was different this time was that by then I kind of knew, okay, I'm not really good at operating. I need a great operator. I'm not really good at this, so I need to find someone who's good at this. And that really helped me create a well-rounded team that could support what I'm good at. So yeah, I would say that's like the biggest thing that I learned. And oftentimes it does come with experience. And so if you're young, or if you're even new in being an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, I think it's going to be really important to just be open to knowing that things might not work out, and that's okay, because this is an opportunity for you to be presented with a challenge to grow. Because I tell this to a lot of people, if you want to be a founder or a business owner, you have to be okay solving problems. If you don't like solving problems, maybe don't run a business, because it's basically solving problems forever. And if that's something you're good at and you're okay doing that, and that's something that that you don't see as like stressful or a problem, then I think this is definitely something to look into. So for me, yeah, like the biggest thing I learned was I'm not the best operator, but there's someone out there that's better than me, and I'm gonna hire them.
It's a really important lesson. Well, I think everyone in this room probably knows that there are a lot of pathways to starting a brand, especially when you have a large social following. But I also think that this is where celebrities and creators sort of take a lot of missteps. Can you share, this is questions for all of you. Curious if you can share sort of how you navigated the early stages of your brand, sort of figuring out who and when to sort of do this.
For me, I had a unique situation because my business partner is also my husband, who is an attorney. And while that's great to have access to that 24/7, it could also be equally as annoying. But I would say that for me personally, I knew that he complemented my strengths. So my strengths and his strengths together kind of made the dream team, because I'm creative and I handle marketing and branding and social and product development, whereas his strengths are more operations and fulfillment and logistics and legal and financial. So equally important roles in the business, but completely different from one another. And so to me, the first step is finding someone who's going to be your partner to handle everything across the board. And to your point, hire people that know more than you and build a team that's gonna cover everything that needs to be covered. Because if you have to do all of it A through Z, most chances are you're not gonna be able to apply your strengths and bring your value add, because you're focusing on things that aren't necessarily your strength or your passion. So building a team, eventually, obviously in the beginning, it was us two for a couple of years, but I had to find someone that could do the things that I didn't know about, like taxes and trademarks and all those things. So I would say that's the first step, is finding someone that you trust.
Just to piggyback on that, I think that's all equally important for sure. You definitely want to make sure you have just like a small circle of trust of people that you feel like are just as invested in the business as you are. And yeah, have a legal team from the get-go, and you have to be proactive so you don't get in situations that you have to backpedal from. And yeah, you just have to make sure you're involved in all aspects of the business and not just like the fun parts, like the creative and the product development. You have to be in every single part so nothing's going over your head and you don't get like caught off guard. So totally agree with what they said.
I'm trying to think about what was something when I went into that was, I think like for me, I actually relaunched my brand and I had to rebuild the entire team. And so during this time, there was a lot of changes with DTC, like iOS had a major update where it was hard to track or just to get first party data. So it became even more expensive to market. And I had to get a little more creative, and thank goodness, and this is why I believe as a founder or a creator or whatever, the power of creating your own content is so, this is your weapon, because being able to tell a story and to connect with an audience, that is something that brands pay money for. And I think that's something that a lot of brand founders, they don't expose themselves more to, is just being in front of the camera and just being okay to mess up and to be silly, but to humanize yourself, because people really do connect with you as a human, and they don't just want to see your brand as a brand. There's real people behind it. And so for me, I decided, like I'm gonna experiment with different formats. I'm gonna break out of what I know and put myself in an uncomfortable position where I might make more mistakes, I might feel silly, but I find that whenever I am in situations where I feel uncomfortable or I feel scared, that's actually where growth is. And the more you expose yourself to that, the more you actually, the more is revealed about who you are, like what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And so during this time with because we didn't have like massive budgets like these other beauty brands for ad marketing. So I would just make a lot of the ads, or I would make a lot of the content, or I would collaborate with a lot of creators and just really getting creative. And I think that's really important, is try to think scrappy while you can in the beginning. And eventually, if you get your brand to a good place, maybe you can raise money for it, or maybe you don't need to raise money. But there's so many, right now today, there's so many new avenues to monetize. And we could talk more about this later because I know there's more questions later, but there's so many opportunities. And now with AI, there's so many amazing tools you can integrate into your toolkit. And I think it's an exciting time right now to be a creator and a brand founder.
Yeah, that's really great. So this is a little off script, but curious just to kind of like follow up from the last question, what are you guys looking for when you're building your team? Like, is it like an instinctual thing, like you connect with someone who is going to hold this important role, or like, what are you looking for?
For us, because we're still a small team, we're 8 people, including my husband and myself. For us, it's really important on your communication style, your workflow style. We're a very tight-knit team that has a very collaborative mindset. So everyone's pretty much involved, has a hand in everything. And to us, it's almost like your personality and your delivery and all of that, it almost supersedes the qualifications. Of course, we always want to hire someone who's qualified for the job, not to say that, but you know what I'm saying. I feel like the style of how you operate and communicate is really important. And because I'm a creative person, I have a very specific process. So finding people that complement that and can work with that and it translates, I think is really important as well when you're building out your team, but also focusing on the departments that need the attention at the time. So for us, it was a very slow burn. We very slowly hired and built it out as we grew as a team and needed more and more help in areas that weren't our expertise.
Yeah, we are also still a very small team and a small company. I'm fortunate enough that one of my managers from YouTube I've been with almost since the beginning of my YouTube career, so I've really just leaned on her a lot, and I have a lot of trust in her, and she's been able to introduce me to a lot of great people that I would never have been able to meet on my own. The perfumer for 3 of our fragrances has been Frank Vocal, who has been just like iconic in the fragrance industry with like Le Labo, Santal, and Glossy. Like he's created some of these amazing fragrances. So she was able to introduce me to him, and he's kind of been like a mentor for me in a way. So I think it's just like, finding people that you can trust, and I'm lucky to have been able to have that. And, we're slowly growing our team, but I have a creative director that we're all on the same page, and that just makes everything way easier.
So much easier.
For me, I like to look for people who are proactive. And the reason why I say this is because I don't like micromanaging people. Some people do. That's not me. I also don't like to be micromanaged, and I think that's why I don't want to be like that. So the people in my team are people who I don't have to tell them what to do. They know what to do. And it's almost like we become a hive mind. And it takes time to really build this. I would say it took me a good solid 5 years of dating, dating, like not dating, but like you're dating, right? Before you marry them, you give them that contract of like, okay, I'm gonna give you a salary for a year. That's marriage, right? So I'll give them like 3 months trial, and then if they're great, then we do 6 months, and then we do a year. But there's been times when, actually she's here today, Stephanie, I'm like calling you out. We hired her on the spot because she sent the most incredible email I've ever seen from, down to the title, like, hire me, please. And I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna click on this, right? Who's this ballsy person that just says that? And then how she wrote the email, it felt like this person knows me, and she had links of like an actual video she made on YouTube. So I clicked on that, and it was a video essay she made. And I was so impressed by her presentation. And I just knew like, yeah, obviously this person's proactive. She didn't do the templatized, this is my resume, this is, ChatGPT, write something for me. You could tell this was someone who was real, who had passion, who took a chance, and also like who put work. She didn't have to make this video essay just for me, but she did. So I really value people who are proactive, because these are people, in my opinion, who can amplify you and become an extension of who you are. But it takes time, though, to find these people, unless you have an amazing, miraculous email like what Stephanie sent. That was like, for me, that happens once in a million years. Like, I never get emails like that. But another thing, too, is you can actually, I also, before I hire someone, I will ask around like, hey, what do you think of this person? So just do like reference checks, because I've heard of horror stories of people who just hired someone based on their LinkedIn and everything on their LinkedIn was fake. And so it's really easy to fake stuff now. It's very easy. And don't just only go on Glassdoor reviews. I used to just be a Glassdoor review person, but I realized a lot of people who get angry, they're more incentivized to write a horrible, review on the company. And I think what matters the most is really like meeting the person, doing a video call with them. You could tell a lot about a person just seeing their face and hearing their voice. That's something you can't really fake. But yeah, proactive. That's for me the Goldilocks when I'm hiring someone.
Stephanie, we all want to meet you later.
Stephanie, right there. Raise your hand, Stephanie. Yeah.
This one is for Stephanie and Sivan. Curious if you guys can talk about what your goals were when you started the lines.
Sure, I'll go first. So I wanted to create fragrances that were unique but also wearable. I started to notice that like every time like there was like a new launch at Sephora, like they all kind of smelled like similar, like familiar. And I'm like, I want fragrances that excite me. Like I feel like that's missing in the market that's also wearable, because there's also the niche fragrance community where things, okay, they smell different, but it's like, do you want to wear that on a daily basis? So I really was striving to create like wearable signature scents. We have 3 fragrances so far. We're launching a 4th this fall. And we're just trying to create like a wardrobe of fragrances, and hopefully everyone finds something that they like. And we're kind of like, I would say like an accessible luxury price point. We're not like too out there, but we're not like, bargain. So I think everyone can find something they love.
For me, I had identified a gap in the market with luxury tanning. At the time, it felt like it was sort of a taboo topic where it was unpleasant, and there was so many pain points in the tanners that were in the market. And I personally felt like there was nothing that I would use or recommend to anybody, especially as an influencer. I tried everything out there and I just never was happy. And so I really saw that as an opportunity to address this issue. And this is something in general that I feel, in today's age where everything has been done, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but even if you're improving on an existing concept, that's still innovation. So for me, I was out to, address all these pain points with self-tanners. And when I knew I had that, I felt confident to proceed with the brand as a whole. And then I had seen visually in my head where and how this was going to play out beyond that. So I knew I'd want to go cross-category beyond self-tanning. So now we're obviously luxury body care, colored cosmetics, and skincare. And we've kind of spoken to this low-maintenance, effortless beauty. And then from there, I thought even more long-term, and I thought, I want to be in Sephora. I want that validation, and I want the authorities in the beauty space to recognize my brand. And I set really clear goals for myself from the beginning, so I knew, as a team also, like what we were all working towards. And slowly but slowly, how does that saying go?
Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, there we go. We're getting there. So that was ultimately the goal, was to fix a problem. But once I knew that idea was solidified, I could see the bigger picture as well.
I'm curious if each of you can compare and contrast the kind of content that does really well on your platforms promoting the line versus the kind of content on the brand's platform with you in it.
So I feel like as an influencer brand, I kind of do things a little bit differently. I'm not really the star of the show if you go to the Ledda fragrance feed, and that's for a few reasons. First, when we were launching my brand, I had just found out that I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, this is not really gonna work out. I gotta take a step back. But also, I always wanted the brand itself to exist outside of me. Like, obviously, it's named after me. Ledda is my last name. But I wanted each fragrance to have like its own identity, because fragrance is so unique, and I felt like if every fragrance just had my face on it, like it would be like, oh, does this smell the same as the last one? So like I didn't really want that, and I really love the creative aspect and creating like the setting and the location of each fragrance is setting the mood with the models and, you know, the outfits and everything like that. Like, I just felt like it made more sense for me to take a step back and, you know, really take on the founder role. I haven't really seen anything negative come from that. So I think it's like a little bit different, but I think it's really working out for us.
Okay. I would say it depends on the platform. So for example, TikTok, it's so casual. Like sometimes I actually recently, my team and I, we made a video, or they made a video, and they're like, Michelle, it's almost at 2 million views, and we posted it 2 days ago. And I was like, but why? Like, it's a behind the scenes and I'm just spraying something on my face and it has 2 million views. Well, sometimes I spend like days making a really beautiful Instagram reel and it flops. And sometimes I don't get it. And I think that's okay. And I think that's what a platform like TikTok it has its own language, it has its own community, and it's really just about output. Like, put as much as you can out, just remove your ego from it, don't judge yourself, don't cringe, just post it and just never look at it again. Rather with Instagram, it's more like a magazine, right? So it's a little more curated, people do care about it. And so on my, the M's feed is obviously a lot of like the products, I'm in a lot of it too. My own feed, obviously it's just me. And I do a lot of collabs with M, but what we're noticing actually, because that's the thing is like, as a content creator, because I've been doing this since 2007, since I was 19, I don't use the method that I did back then and I apply it today. Like, you have to evolve it. And so it's really important as you're a creator, it's very important to also consume. You want to be able to watch content even outside of your industry too, just to see how is the language changing, how is the format changing, how's all this changing? It wasn't that long ago, Instagram was just photos. And now it's mostly videos. Like, you don't even think about it. Everyone was complaining about it too, but now everyone's making videos. It's like, yes, be open and be adaptable. But something I'm noticing is that people just want to see the brand be more humanized. And so I'm doing a lot of collaborations with my own brand where we're just doing silly things that it's not even about makeup. It just shows that we have a personality and we're real people and we're enjoying what we do. And there's something really powerful about that, because what I've learned as a creator, and I think this is why I've had such a really long career in this space. And being a digital creator, your career is not that long. So I think the reason why I had longevity is because when I create content, people can feel the heart in it, and people have an emotional connection with you. And also, you could do the same with a brand. You can create emotional connection with the brand, but I think starting off as a founder and building that connection, that parasocial relationship is so key, because once you have this super fan, that's your established community. Then on top of that, then you could start building and they become the ambassador of your brand. But it all starts with the heart. So it's really important, in my opinion, to really connect to people on an emotional level so that you can build that parasocial relationship.
I feel like I do a combination of what you guys said, because on my brand side of things, you know, it's very much a portfolio, like a visual portfolio of who you are as the brand. I think today, a lot of people go to Instagram before they even go to your website. And so to me, I feel it's really important to represent your brand there. And then on TikTok, you can, again, humanize and be fun and playful. And we do a lot of the same things where it's like, has nothing to do with what we even create. But people want to see the behind the scenes of what goes on and how silly you are and that you're just human. And for me personally, I feel, you know, where I got started in this industry to begin with was just sharing my life. And I've always realized that there's this uptick whenever I share my personal life. And as I've gotten older, I've had to find a balance between sharing, you know, what I'm comfortable. But obviously, I am the founder of a brand that's very prevalent on social media, so I can't just completely hide myself. But you know, I want it to sustain itself outside of me. And I knew that from day one, which is why as a founder, I'm in there here and there. But for the most part, we love to lean on models and have someone else representing the brand, just to also show that it's not just about me. It's not just, if you follow me, you like this brand. It's for everybody. And so we kind of do a combination of, you know, models on Instagram, silly on TikTok. For me, it's just my personal daily life, weaving in organically the products so you can see how I'm personally using it if you care to see how I use it. But you don't have to follow me to know who the brand is. And I think that's really important, is to establish an identity outside of you as the founder if you want to have longevity, if you're not planning to always be on the online and, you know, on the front of the Instagram. Because I personally knew that one day there would be a day where I don't want to be on Instagram posting my get ready with me. So
Really, I feel like people would want to see you even like into your older years. Yeah, I think so. I think.
Do you want to keep doing it then?
Yeah.
I want to.
never
With
know.
2 kids, it's challenging right now. But I think in a couple of years, I'll have some more free time.
I think with the advent of social media at the time that a lot of us were aged, I think that there will be a big opportunity later because I mean everyone's getting older at the same time. who like came up in
Great
social
getting
media.
older. We need to stop vilifying aging. Like there's always a war on aging. Like anti-aging, it's like what's wrong with it? Everything dies. Even a sun dies. Even a star dies. Like it's okay. Like we need to empower each other and show that we're beautiful at every stage and every evolution of your life.
Yeah. It's so true. I do also identify with the idea of like hitting a wall though. And I'm like, I used to post so much on Instagram and now I don't. And I'm like, it's better now. But it's like everyone has their journey and their reasons. But curious if you guys can each share a challenge that you're facing right now and sort of how you're approaching it.
I guess I'll go first. So we're kind of in the middle of a challenge right now. Last week, we finally launched internationally. So that's been like a huge thing for us. Yeah. That's been huge because fragrance is like a little different. Like there's a lot of stripping. There's no stripping. There's a lot of shipping restrictions due to the higher alcohol content. So we actually had to set up manufacturing in France. So it's like a whole process. So now, because of that, we're able to ship throughout the rest of the world. But with that, it's like, okay, so now we have to balance, growing new markets, but then also still concentrating on the ones we have here in the United States and Canada. So like, how do we manage growing, but then also keeping our growth here? So, we're gonna find that out. So that's our current challenge.
I would say the challenge we've been having has been really just, reaching a new audience because just with how the ad marketing is, it's kind of like, video games, like, I don't know if you all play video games, but like the play to win type of video games where even though you're not skillful, you pay a lot of money, then you're gonna win. Because a lot of these platforms like Facebook, Instagram, they really reward those who pay a lot of money to be on the front page. That's why when you go on Amazon, you search for something, the Amazon recommended, people pay a lot of money to be on that spot. But that's probably not the product that you want, right? And so I was like, do I sink costs and just break even, just continuing doing this? Or should I look for new ways to find meaningful ROI? The return on investment, right? Because a lot of these ad marketing or even influencer activations, influencer activations, a lot of them do convert, a lot of them don't. But then a lot of the times it's like, well, they don't convert, but you got exposure. But I feel like a lot of brands right now, because we are in a recession, inflation's at all-time high. I mean, they've been printing money since like 2020. So it's like we're feeling the squeeze right now, right? And so every brand, everyone in the nation and probably in the world, they're just being more mindful about where they're spending their money. And so just putting that in the back of my head, I realized, okay, what strength can I play on? Because I don't want to do this whole play to win because it's just breaking even. It's not really moving the needle. So I've been exploring a lot of TikTok live streaming shop. And I think this is definitely something that many of you should look into. And the reason why I say this is because in 2016, I was in China and I was invited by like Alibaba and Taobao. They wanted to host me. And so I was doing like a bunch of live streams with their streamers. This is 2016, it's a long time ago, right? Guys, like in 15 minutes, I sold $250,000 worth of makeup products in 15 minutes. And I wasn't even doing anything. I was like, oh yeah, this is in my makeup bag. I'm using this. And then they're like, oh my gosh, Michelle, we sold. I was like, what? Why don't we have this in America? So like, I was so sad, like leaving China, coming back here and just seeing how live streaming is so slow. Like it's Twitch, but it's not e-com yet. And so Instagram tried to do it, but they failed. Amazon even did the live streaming thing and they let go of their entire team. It's hard because on a platform, most, especially Americans, it's different in China, but in America, people kind of like to just go on Amazon to shop, go on YouTube to watch stuff. Like everything is separated, like nothing's really combined, like WeChat and everything. So for the longest time, I'm like, man, like if only we had a live streaming thing, I would kill it, right? And so now TikTok, they've been spending so much time growing their TikTok shop to eventually become live streaming, because that's actually how they make money. They make hundreds of billions a year in revenue overseas in Asia, Southeast Asia, which is interesting for your brand. And so I decided, you know what, let me try it, let me explore it. And the first show we did, we sold out of everything. And you know why we sold out? It was because am I taking up too much space, by the way? Is this okay? Can I continue? Okay. I see the timer. It's like 15 seconds. Okay. So what I learned is that, for example, we all have Amazon, right? All you have the Amazon app. So we have the ability to go online right now and buy whatever we want, right? But that's the problem, is that now we have too much convenience. So things are changing. Now people, consumers in America, they want to be seduced and told a story. Why should they buy this? So what's the best way to do that? It's not going to be Amazon. You're not going to find that in the reviews, and most of them are fake reviews, or not even real. When you go on YouTube, you watch a review video, do you immediately go and buy right away? You don't. You're like, okay, I'll think about it, but it doesn't convert that fast. But TikTok Live Shop converts immediately because there's that FOMO. So it plays on the human psychology of FOMO, and it works, unfortunately. But fortunately, as a brand founder, it works. So you have to know how to play that and know how to tell the story. And people, when they hear your excitement, the passion, when they see the product, and again, it goes back to that human emotion, right? When they feel that connection, that trust is built, they buy.
Wait, I heard you have to do it for 2 hours for it to
Minimum, but it's gonna be an 8-hour show.
You've done it for 2 hours?
I've done it for I'm doing another one on 8/8 for 12 hours. So y'all are thinking like, oh my gosh, Michelle, that's a long time. It's like, y'all, it passes by so fast. It's like, sometimes I'm like, yo, I feel like I time jumped or something, because I was like, there's no, like, by the 5th hour, I'm gonna be tired, I'm gonna need coffee. It's
marathon.
It's so exciting, but you need to have, how many of y'all, can you raise your hands who are creators in this room? How many of all are creators? How many of you are live streamers? Okay, right. So would you say, okay, to a few people, that's the thing, is you have to actually understand that being a live streamer and being a content creator, when you're making content editing, 2 different ways of performing. So when you're making long form content or whatever, right, just content where you edit, there's a lot, you can be an introvert and do it really well, but you need to bring out your extrovertness when you do lives. And so there's a saying a lot of my YouTuber friends, we say, the OG YouTubers, we're like, yeah, like, YouTubers were introverts, but the Twitch streamers are all extroverts, they're all crazy, right? Because they have to be, because that's what people want on the background. So something I've learned right now, because I'm actually still in it and I'm learning the format, is that you have to bring out that extrovertedness in you. So I don't know if y'all do Myers-Briggs, but you got to turn that I into an E. And then I'm telling you, this is where it's going. I know it's going here. I've seen the trends. I saw that in 2016. And TikTok, they're spending so much money growing this. So don't be left behind. Definitely get on top of it, learn. And like I said, put yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable, because when you are, that's when you know you're in the right spot for growth.
I don't remember the question.
One challenge that you're facing.
Okay, so the challenge is, as someone mentioned here, that you will always have a challenge when you start your own business. And it's not a day that goes by that I don't have a challenge thrown at me. And I will say that no one will work harder than yourself for your own brand, so you have to push through. It's a loaded question to ask me what a challenge is, because there's always something. I'd say right now our biggest focus is shifting our strategy from just Instagram to TikTok. Obviously, I feel very out of touch with TikTok. I don't feel like I get it. I cannot live stream for 12 hours. So I have to figure this out. But that's a huge challenge for us right now, because I felt like I had that on lockdown with Instagram. I felt like I knew what I was doing. I could bust out the content. I just had it in such a good place. And then of course, right, when you're comfortable, things change. So you always have to feel like you're evolving and getting uncomfortable and learning and pushing yourself. And I'd say that's probably our biggest challenge right now, and trying to bring in people that get it. So whether it's outsourcing or using an agency, we just hired a TikTok agency and they've told me I need a live stream. I'm like, how? I need a tutorial. So yeah, just adapting and learning and constantly pushing yourself to try things that make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys so much. This was so nice. Round of applause.